Good morning, good morning, good morning, WOMAD! Hey! Oh, thank you. You actually make quite a lot of noise in this big tent. That's great. Welcome this morning to this very, very special event. This is like nothing that I have ever done before, because this is the Young Green Briton panel. I think this is the most important panel at WOMAD this year, can I just say? Yes, we're all in agreement. Hooray! So thank you so much for coming. Now, I'll just explain why this is the most important panel at WOMAD, or any UK festival this summer, and that's because we have 4 outstanding young ambassadors for the environment here today. And we are going to hear from them. And ladies and gentlemen, they are speaking in possibly the largest tent I've ever been in. It's like playing Wembley or something. So, you know, before we even start, guys, hats off for this. And whatever you do after this, you will never play such a challenging venue, but you've also got a lovely, warm audience who are behind every word. So enjoy it, won't you? Enjoy it today. Now, we all know us ecotypes, and we're all ecotypes up here, and probably a lot of you are there as well, that we need these big shifts. We need these big changes to happen, system shifts in major areas that affect our lives, the way we do things, what we consume and how we consume it. And those sections are acknowledged to be energy, transport, food, and nature. So guess what? Each of our ambassadors here is an expert in that area. So Ecotricity, and I would like to just give them a massive round of applause, Ecotricity, because they have launched this Young Green Briton campaign, put their full energy behind it, and they are bringing through the next generation of thinkers and doers who are going to spearhead these changes they're very, very persuasive, these people. You'll hear from them in a minute. They're very, very persuasive. So first of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Dale Vince, Ecotricity, and Helen Taylor, who's worked so hard on this. So thank you to them. Now, I'm just going to introduce you, first of all, to our Young Green Britons. So we have Joe Inman. Put your hands up. Yeah. Yes. Martha James here. You're going to hear from them in a minute. Amara Smith and Josh Gard. Let's a big round of applause for all of them. And they're not here by accident. Oh no. They are so talented that they came through the competition, the Young Green Briton competition run. I think this is year 2, isn't it, Dale? Yes, year 2. They've come through some very, very tough competition to be picked as our finalists, each representing one of those categories. And one of the things that they had to do was to outline their vision for a Green Britain. Now, each of our finalists is working with a mentor to develop their ideas and flesh them out, and generally just go around being a really good egg on behalf of the environment and persuading everyone else that this is what needs to happen. I promise you, they're so persuasive. So I'm going to introduce you now to their illustrious mentors, and there really are no more illustrious people around WOMAD today. Okay, so first of all, we have, and I have to make sure everything matches up properly here. So we have Joe, who is our energy champion, and his mentor is Dale Vince, Ecotricity founder, and the founder of Green Briton Vision. Welcome, Dale. Welcome. Martha James, our brilliant transport champion, is paired with the great Robert Llewellyn, actor, comedian and writer, and electric car fanatic. Yes, obsessive, is that better?
I don't know, vague interest.
Oh, what? If that's a vague interest, please. And on to our food champion, Amara Smith. And now Amara is paired with Nick Allan, who's executive chef and director of the Star Anise vegetarian café in Stroud. You're there, Nick. Well welcome. Wow, what a popular guy you are. It's a shame you've got to leave early. He's only here for half an hour, so we're gonna milk his popularity. He's so popular, he's got to do another event. Okay, and last but by no means least, we have the brilliant Josh Scard, and he's mentored by Mark Avery, writer, blogger, and campaigner for conservation, particularly the hen harrier. You might have seen Mark walking around yesterday with an enormous hen harrier chick.
Absolutely, and he needs your help, and there's an e-petition. If you Google ban-driven grouse shooting, you can help hen harriers everywhere. Thank you very much.
I'm very in favour of these egregious plugs for all the brilliant stuff that you're doing, so do throw them out the whole way through. Okay, I just want to start just by outlining this importance of this Green Britain vision that's been developed by Ecotricity. By the way, you can pop over and say hello, or even sign up in the Arboretum where Ecotricity have a stage over there, and it's very nice and shady as well. Dale, could you just, in a nutshell, just outline why it's so important, this vision for Green Britain, and a little bit about just generally how fantastic our finalists are and their visions are?
Okay, thank you. I'll give it a go. In a nutshell, our focus is on the three big areas of energy, transport, and food, because between them they account for 80% of all our personal carbon footprints and fossil fuel consumption and general unsustainability. And our general approach in all three of those is that we need to use less, whether that's energy, transport, or food, and what we do use needs to come from a more sustainable source. So they're quite universal rules across the three. The fourth that we added is making room for nature, because there's so little land left in Britain for nature. It's an essential component, we think, of what a Green Britain should look like, and hopefully will one day. So, with regards to our finalists this year, I just think that they're a fantastic bunch of kids with some real deep knowledge and some exciting ideas, and I love to hear what they have to say. So I'm just going to end there.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you, Dale. Yes, we do want to hear what they're going to say. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce each of our panelists, and then they are going to give you a world exclusive into their big ideas, okay? And it obviously revolves around the category that they are specializing in. Their mentors are here. They've already worked a little bit with their mentors to get this ready. But we're going to take some questions as well from you. And if you don't have any, I've got loads, but I hope you do have some questions. And you can ask questions of the mentors as well, because we've got these illustrious brains with us this morning. So we're just going to hear a little bit more about what your visions are, guys. Is that okay? All right, Joe, you've been chosen to begin. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Yes, he's great, he doesn't mind. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about Joe Inman, and he's representing energy. Joe's 13, goes to St Augustine's Catholic College in Trowbridge. In his words, he entered the competition to see how we can make a difference to the energy we use, but also to show others that it is important to start using green energy to make the world a better place to live in the future. He wants a greener Britain very much, and he wants to do this by changing people's perceptions of energy. You're the youngest here today, Joe. It's very nice to meet you. Now, Helen tells me you've done a lot of research and you've been learning about renewable energy at school. That's quite refreshing to hear, because we had a debate yesterday where a lot of people were saying that they didn't feel that they were being taught some of these basics. Did you enjoy learning about renewable energy at school? And you can be completely honest.
I did quite enjoy learning about it because it was interesting and fun, and it actually made me think about what we should be doing and using it in our sort of energy and all around the subjects.
And is that where your ideas have come from for your big idea?
Yeah, I started with them, and then I sort of expanded on those ideas.
Okay, well let's hear your big idea. Take it away, Joe.
So I want to start with why renewable energy is good for us and the planet. As I'm sure most of us here are aware, power plants burning fossil fuels to produce energy creates large amounts of carbon dioxide, one of the primary causes of global warming. Global warming traps heat in the atmosphere, increasing the temperature of our Earth. This can be awful not just for the planet, but for humans too, as it can affect our health, environment, and our climate. For example, it can melt the ice at the poles, increasing sea levels or killing animals. This sea level increase can submerge countries below sea level, for example, Holland. Renewable energy produces very little carbon dioxide, therefore not polluting our planet, but also helping our environment to grow, a large reason why it's good to use renewable energy, not just for now, but also in the future, as our planet will benefit in the long run. Whilst renewable energy sources are beginning to contribute more capacity, particularly from wind and plant biomass, we need to do more. Renewable energy is not only better for the planet, but also creates greater employment, helping add to our economy. Renewable energy is more labour-intensive, meaning on average more jobs are created than from working fossil fuels. In my opinion, working outside, installing products you know aren't just going to help with people's lives, but also helping our planet as well, is much more fulfilling than simply just working indoors at a power plant factory, knowing you're killing our environment. In 2015, 112,000 people were employed in renewable energy in the UK. This was mainly made up of solar employment at 35,000 people. Over in the US, more than 769,000 people were employed in renewable energy. Solar and wind employment grew by 20% in 2015. As well as this, jobs in oil and gas fell by 18% due to low prices. All these facts show renewable energy is growing worldwide. But when this energy never runs out, we should be trying to introduce it into our everyday lives. Most of our oil and gas is imported from other countries, and coal is slowly running out. As many of our power plants have been shut down, the country is looking to make nuclear power a reality, and has had money offered by China to build over here in Britain. What we need to look at is how other countries don't want to build nuclear power stations in their countries, and because they know it will worsen our lives and also the atmosphere, and we need to say no and find a new way of producing gas. We need a sustainable way of producing gas that doesn't harm our environment. What we could do is use a system called anaerobic digestion. It works by taking everyday things like food waste and even grass, then turns these products into gas and puts them back into the grid. This is a great way of producing gas that is sustainable and doesn't produce any harmful gases. If we could become an energy-independent country, not only would it help our lives, but also benefit our country. We could have energy for the present and future generations, as well as more resources and money for the country to invest back into renewable energy. So now I want to move on to why and who we need to get involved to really excel energy in our world. We need to make energy, green energy, a normal thing in people's lives. We aren't going to be able to do this if everyone is rejecting renewable energy, saying it's too expensive or it will never provide enough for our households. These are just excuses. For example, it's proven in the US that it can actually help stabilize energy prices, and I'm sure that it can be the same over here in Britain. Obviously, we need the government to provide help and support with long-term strategic policies, but they will only do this if enough people want renewable energy to be part of our everyday life. I also believe we need to get big names into renewable energy, for example, car manufacturers or sporting clubs. Take Forest Green Rovers, for example. As you may know, they're a football club with a difference. The whole club is eco-friendly, whether that be from the vegan menu or the electric cars the players drive. The club is a great example of what needs to happen. Even if some larger football clubs just put solar panels on their stadium, people might see this and think, well, if they're doing it, maybe we should try it too. As well as this, it should be compulsory for all new homes all over the country to be on green energy. In this day and age, houses are being built all over the country to cater for the growing population. If all these homes could be fitted with green energy, it would make a huge difference in renewable energy. Perhaps we could try and create green villages, just like we have fair trade villages. Everything should be powered by renewable by renewable electricity, whether that be houses or supermarkets, as it may inspire others to join in with green energy. 20 years ago, people thought electric cars were mad and would never become a reality. They were seen as possibly okay to run around in locally, but now there are power points all over the country's motorway network, meaning you can drive the length and breadth of the country. If people and companies embrace an idea, it can take off. The same thing needs to happen with renewable energy. It's a great idea for every aspect of our lives, and all it needs to do is grow and develop is support from the government, but you as well. I now want to move on to my final point on how we can get more people into using renewable energy. So, having asked my family members and friends about whether they would switch to renewable energy, I got the idea that all they needed was to take the first step, as they all said that they were interested in switching their energy but needed more information and had worries about the cost. I want to change this. It seems that people, although well-intentioned, need some incentives. One idea could be if a family switched to a large green energy supplier, Ecotricity for example, they would automatically be entered into a draw to stay in a coastal hotel that is funded and has been built by Ecotricity, obviously in a very sustainable and renewable way. Every month, a percentage of their customers are chosen at random. In the hotel, they would be able to relax but also learn about renewable energy and how the hotel is powered. So the moral of the trip is not lost and could encourage people to embrace it in their everyday living. As many aspects of the hotel would be about renewable energy, food and materials in its everyday life. This would benefit teaching everyday customers in the possibility of changing their green outlook. I think it's very important to also encourage big and small businesses to change to green energy sources in their working lives. Imagine if all office buildings had solar panels and wind source power. An incentive for businesses would be that at the Eco Hotel they could use their team building activity days and conferences there for a very competitive price or free if they change their power source. This would also help large groups of people to see that the importance of green energy in their daily lives. I also want to include smaller prizes in your local area so everyone had a chance to learn and enjoy renewable energy. For example, if you're in the county of Norfolk, you may win a day to the Green Briton Centre, where you can go to the top of a working windmill and even see the world's fastest green-powered car. I was thinking that prizes could be won on how much energy was used by households. I hope it would encourage people and families to reduce their energy, as there is an incentive that is almost like a target to work towards. Sometimes a little push is all people need to change. Thank you.
Cherry Man. Joe, brilliantly done. You had research, you had a mission, you had a vision. Fantastic. We'll get some reaction from Dale, your mentor, in a second. I've got a quick question for you. You referenced Forest Green Rovers. Are they your team?
They're not. They're sort of my local team, because I support Liverpool.
Joe, who's your team? Answer the question.
My team's Liverpool.
Okay. On that bombshell, we'll come back to you in a second. Some fantastic stuff in there. I'd like you to hold your thoughts, Dale. We're now going to go to Amara, because I know that Nick's got to go, so I'd like him to hear a little bit of your vision. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Amara before we hear Amara talk about food. Amara's 16, just finished her GCSEs at Monmouth. She entered the competition because she's always been really interested in the environment, and having recently and enthusiastically turned vegan, she saw the competition and thought it would be a great way to express her beliefs. She says, she loves being vegan. I'd like you to tell me a little bit more about this. I haven't met, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't met that many young vegans. Yes, who are really kind of passionate, enthusiastic about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'm going to turn this back towards you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mara, take it away.
We've completely underrated the role food plays in global warming and how it contributes to our environment. From most of the studies I've seen, it actually contributes 15 to higher than 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions. When you think about how high that statistic is, it's amazing that we're not talking about it, it's not discussed. I haven't even learned about it in school, in like geography lessons or science or anything. And I think it's really important to start talking about this because it's such a big deal. With that in mind, vegans' food emissions are on average 70% lower than meat eaters. Bearing in mind what I said before, that makes a huge difference, and you can see it's so much more important to lowering our greenhouse gas emissions to do this. In addition to that, 80% of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is caused by animal agriculture. Again, that's a huge amount, and obviously deforestation has a huge impact on global warming. I've had a lot of people tell me that obviously they plant soy in place of that, and you say, oh, you know, vegan, it's you eating the soy then. But the truth is that it's completely inefficient to be a meat eater, because not only do you have to produce the soy and the grain to feed the cows, and then the cow feeds the meat eater. 30% of our Earth's land mass is actually taken up by animal agriculture as well, I've heard. And when you think about how much space that is, we could really do so much more with that to help the environment. We could encourage areas in nature to encourage biodiversity, use it for sustainable energy. There's so many possibilities. And although we enjoy meat, or you do, we could live without meat, but we can't live without our planet. And so I think that's why it's so important to consider turning vegetarian or vegan. Again, with the average vegan, it takes a third of the space to feed a vegan than it does to feed a meat eater. Considering that we're going to have an extra 2 billion mouths to feed by 2050, it seems like if we actually want to help these people who we're going to need to feed on such a mass scale, then going vegan or vegetarian is a great way to help this. Yeah, I think their diets are generally cheaper as well, to be honest, because it's made up of vegetables and things, so that's another good thing. Again, when you produce fertilizers and things to feed the grain, to feed the animals, nitrous oxide and methane are both created on huge scales, creating meat. And methane is 20 times more potent as a warmer than carbon dioxide, which many people don't know. But when you consider how much is used or produced by creating meat, it's really important that we lower this. And nitrous oxide as well is 300 times more potent as a warmer. Again, we don't know these things, and when it's such an important part of the meat industry, I don't understand why we don't talk about it. So, how do I think we should change this? Well, going vegan is the obvious answer. As I've just said, with all these statistics, there are so many reasons and ways it's harming the environment. But it's not that simple to go vegan. I mean, personally, I think we should dissociate the moral implications of eating meat from the environmental harm, because I think it's too subjective to say, you know, personally why you might go vegetarian or vegan. Who could say if, you know, eating meat is wrong or right? And I've met a lot of adults actually who distance themselves from vegan and vegetarian motions because they see these slaughter videos and things, and they just think, rather than being urged to go vegan, they just want to, you know, dissociate themselves with it because they think, you know, I don't want to see this. So I think it's important to promote it more in the way that, say, Greenpeace do. Reduce your meat intake, see the benefits to the environment rather than the harm to the animals. Yeah. And I think it's also important just for vegetarians, vegans to start talking about these options and being open about it. I've actually got quite a lot of vegan friends, which is why I'm surprised at that, but it's nice that we can talk about this. I think people should be more open-minded about their approach to food, because, you know, like I said, this has a huge impact. And we should be able to talk about this, because if no one else is, it's up to us. Yeah. I think, how much time is that?
I don't know, I'm so spellbound. I haven't been watching the time. Is that, have you said everything you want to say?
Yeah, I think so.
Brilliant, okay. Thank you very much, Amara Smith. What a brilliant, clear-sighted vision that you have, and I love the way you make that distinction and you focus on the environmental truths and the science. I just want to get a little bit of a reaction from your mentor, Nick, before he has to leave us. What did you make of that, Nick?
Hello, everybody. I was very impressed, and I must say I can barely take credit for it, as I only met Amara just before this presentation, and you did take your time and you put your point across very clearly, and it's very inspiring, exactly as she said herself, to see young people living their dream, living a dream that's beyond what's presented to them in their lives, and I find that it really speaks for the future of our country, despite all the challenges that we're facing. And the key distinction of environment and the obvious choice that and difference that going vegan can make is really good to hear laid out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready to bow out.
Thank you, thank you. A quick question for you, Amara. So you specifically said you had never been taught this stuff at school.
Yeah.
It'd never been part of the curriculum, never, even though you did geography.
And triple science, yeah.
And triple science. So how do you research? Because your speech was very thoroughly researched. Where do you, whose statistics do you rely on?
To be honest, I'm quite nerdy. I look into this a lot because I like it. I like a lot of environmental pages and things like that, and I look on the blogs and the articles. I'm currently reading a book, actually, on how humans affect the environment. Things like that. I pick up these facts and they stick with me.
You're reading or writing a book?
Reading.
Well, it won't be long before you're writing the book. Do you read my page?
Huh? Yeah. But you're in the Guardian,
Awkward.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I'll try harder now. Now I know you're reading. Blimey, pressure's on. Thank you very much for that. Dale, just going back to Joe's speech, just your reaction to Joe's vision, because you need to create a sustainable hotel.
Yeah.
Are you going to be getting on with that?
Yeah. Can I just say, I thought his presentation was fantastic. His grip of the facts.
Yes, it was.
The way he put them across, it was awe-inspiring actually, from somebody so young. As Nick said, that just fills you with hope for the future,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. The idea I thought was great. He did tell me about it yesterday, and we've decided that we're going to look into doing, not building the hotel, I should say, not that part, but the prize giving, the kind of lottery for customers, where Joe was saying to me yesterday we could give forest green tickets, for example, and tickets to go up the turbine at the Green Briton Centre, where we've already got all of that educational stuff assembled. We just think it's a great idea. I talked to our head of marketing yesterday, so we're going to have a crack at that.
Brilliant. So the incentivization program's already taken off, Joe. Joe, what is it like for you to be able to sort of interact with Ecotricity? So you write, and I was said before how you had very cleverly split your idea up, and you had a research bit and your kind of overview and then your vision. What is it like to then actually meet Dale and talk to Helen and the guys at Ecotricity and then see parts of it become reality? Is it weird?
Well, it's kind of weird because, when you start these things, you never actually think that it's going to happen. And when you sort of see others who believe the same thing as you, it's kind of inspiring that you know that it's not just going to get forgotten and you will actually progress, and it's going to progress as in energy and all the areas that they will progress in the future and hopefully make our world a better place.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. We shall hear more from you shortly. We're going to move on now to Martha. Martha James, who's representing transport, of course, and is mentored by Robert Llewellyn. Be listening out with interest here. Martha is 14, a pupil at Archway School in Stroud, and the reason why she entered this competition in your words, Martha, because I have big concerns about the environment. I want to make environmental issues, including climate change, transport, energy, and food, a priority in today's society. Most people in the world are concerned, but when it comes to doing something about it, we need to motivate them into action. Now, I had a sneaky look at Martha's idea, and it's going to take a few of us back in time, I can tell you, so I'm looking forward to sharing this one. Okay, Martha, take it away.
Okay. So, there are seven times more traffic on the road now compared to the 1950s, and the distance travelled has increased by over 1,000%. And cars account for almost 2/3 of road transport greenhouse gas emissions, and work-related travel accounts for 1/3 of total CO2 emissions, with people taking long journeys by themselves. And also, it is a major risk to health, with millions of people every day travelling on the roads, because road pollution is twice as deadly as traffic accidents, according to a study of UK air quality. It is the UK's biggest killer after smoking and causes 40,000 deaths a year. Breathing in air pollution can increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, asthma, and even cancer.
Robert, would you like to tell us a little bit about this as well?
I can give a very vague, as Martha would do it, she explained it so much better to me earlier on, but that was just me.
Yes.
The idea is very, very simple and very, very incredibly sensible. So if you think of apps on your phone like Airbnb and Uber, what Martha's come up with is a very simple notion of hitchhiking. Now, I used to hitchhike back in the 1970s all the time. That's how I got around. I didn't have a car, I didn't have any money. I'd stand at the side of the road, put my thumb out, and 99.9% of the time get a completely reasonable person pick me up and drive me somewhere, and then I'd hitchhike more. I went all over the country and all over Europe doing that. One particular gentleman was a little bit enthusiastic, but that was only one time out of thousands of lifts. And what this is if you think you've got an app that I've just driven here today in a car on my own half the journey. I did have a passenger for half the journey. But if I had an app that said there's someone on the M5 trying to get on the M5, they're trying to get down towards Bristol, and I go and I look at their profile and it says they've never stabbed anyone, they've never stolen anything, they're quite nice, they might be a vegan, and explain to you how important it is to be a vegan, which would be good. And then they can see your profile, and you're not a nutter, and you're not going to do anything weird, and you've had given lots of people lifts, and then you feel secure. So you drive down that bit, they're on that junction of the M5, you pick them up, take them, and it's just a brilliant idea.
Brilliant idea, and it also utilises one of these things.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have these, don't they? And that was the point, wasn't it, that you wanted to utilise the technology that people have already? Because I'm going to just steal from Martha's notes. 76% of the population own a smartphone, so there is a real method in this. There's also, I'm just stealing your notes here, so I'm going to get all the glory from this. Is this okay? I'm going to pretend it's my idea. Okay, so Martha says that there would be 5 official hitch stops on the outskirts of every town and city. So those will be located on the map, which presumably is that the map that you can get on your phone, on your smartphone. So there is a sort of system, infrastructure for this, because when you were hitchhiking back in the day, not that long ago, obviously.
No.
No. It was a bit more of a free-for-all, wasn't it?
But you also did know where to go. So when I hitched out of London to go to Oxford, I'd go out to Hanger Lane, because I knew there was a bit that drivers could pull in safely from the traffic, and you'd stand there. You didn't just stand like on the flyover.
Oh, okay.
So there were locations then. You just knew it from other hitchers. You'd work it out where to go. And
so you make it easy for the driver.
So you make it easier for them, yeah. Easier for the driver and the passenger, yeah.
What else does this say? This is fascinating. Okay, you've thought of everything. So you can also use Martha's system on any of the current online lift sharing schemes, so that you can arrange lifts in advance, or they can be used by people who just want to rock up and try their luck on the day. So it's basically a system that can integrate with the things that are already out there, which is also brilliant, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel the whole time.
No.
What we actually need is things that integrate, isn't it? Yes. Okay, can you tell me, Robert, what appeals to you about this idea?
I mean, I think it's the note which we discussed earlier on, the notion of car sharing because Martha's family don't own a car, haven't done for 20 years, but they use them. So they're part of a car sharing group in Stroud, which is really the only sustainable way we're going to be able to have cars in our lives. So the more car sharing there is, the less cars there are. The less cars there are, the less roads we need, the less fuel we use, but the more people use them. And so the more people there are in one car, the more efficient it becomes, just by, regardless of what powers it. But obviously, if it's electric, as I'm a fanatic, apparently, then
I downgraded it to obsessive.
Obsessive. But so all those things tie in together. So the less cars there are, the better the world would be. There isn't enough material to make all the cars so that everyone who can afford a car can have one. It just isn't. So we've got to find another way of having a relationship with cars, and this is very much part of that process.
So it's not even everybody changing in this kind of utopia where everyone has an electric car?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Well, we can't. There's not enough. There's not enough of anything. One of the arguments is not enough of your special lithium. That was an actual quote from someone. And luckily, I was with an automotive engineer at the time who said, "Don't worry, there's not enough steel. There's not enough material to make 100 billion cars. Which is it's ridiculous. So we have to." So it'll be generational, and this generation have got to, I don't think will own cars, but they'll still be able to use them when they need them, which is a much better way of dealing with it.
So Martha, are you okay with thinking that you might never own a car?
Well, I think I will get a car, but I'll get an electric car.
And then you'll share it?
Yeah, on the app.
Yeah, so you'll use the car to demonstrate your app, basically, as a sort of demonstration vehicle. Now, you've been using Lift Share with your family for your whole life? So you've never had, your family's never had a car?
No, but since we've been living in Stroud, we joined the car club, which is like a car in a car park, and you can borrow the key and then just borrow it whenever you like.
And have you found that you can go wherever you like? Have you ever been late for anything? How do you find being in a car club? What's the experience like of being in a car club?
Well, it just feels like our car, really. We just share it with everyone. And sometimes we go on holiday, but usually it's just for like an hour or something, going to wherever we need to go.
So you can actually go away in it as well?
But because you pay for the I don't know.
So you pay for so you use it, and then you drop it when you go away. Do you drop it off where you're in your destination, so you don't have to pay for the whole week away? Is that how it works?
We don't usually go away in it, but if we do, like for a weekend or something, we can ask if we can go away or something.
But in the future, if everyone had one in every place, you'd be able to drive the car to wherever you wanted to go, log it back in there, and then someone else could use it there, and then you could get it back. If enough people had them, it would be great, wouldn't it? What is the one thing that you'd like people to take away from this?
That hitchhiking isn't really scary, it can be part of an everyday life.
Brilliant, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Martha! Welcome. And last, but by no means least, we have Josh Gard, who's representing nature. That's what it says here. That's a big responsibility, representing nature. Josh is 15. He goes to Cranbrook Grammar School in Kent. And this is his own words as well. He's interested in this topic because of the fragility of the situation nature is in and how easily Britain's ecosystems could be degraded. It is my thought, it's Josh's thought, that we should all be interested in how to conserve what little we have left. You are very right, I think, Josh. Now, I also hear that you've recently been on an Action for Conservation summer camp.
Yep, that is right. Yeah.
Yes, was it good?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, quite eye-opening. It was mostly based around people who were working with George Monbiot and his work to rewild basically the UK and Europe, which is a massive ongoing operation.
Is this a clue to your vision?
Maybe.
Oh, so mysterious. I'm going to hear in a minute, Josh. So, okay. And when you go away for these sort of summer camp things, so presumably How do they sort of work? Do you have like lectures, or do you discuss your ideas, or?
We basically get lectures and we get taught, and then we implicate what we get taught in like around us. So in Wales, we were working with the National Trust to basically weed out non-native species, which we then got taught afterwards was the wrong thing to do. So it was like almost teaching by making mistakes. It was very useful actually. But hopefully with it we can teach the next generation how to properly manage the use of land around us and how properly conservation should be used.
Do you have any thoughts about what you want to do later in your career?
I kind of want to enroll into the DICE program, which is the Gerald Durrell program for conservation. That's the scholarship down in Canterbury. And then see how it goes. Yeah, I don't really have that many plans.
Well, that sounds like quite a good plan so far. Okay, brilliant. Okay, take it away, Josh. Thank you.
In the UK, we have 860,000 acres of moorland, which, in my own opinion, is a sort of barren wasteland to us. It has a very low density of life except for sheep, which are the only reason it's kept to moorland for now. And in a period of 8,000 years, we've managed to lose pretty much all of our woodland. We've gone from 75% to 25%. Now, I know in modern terms that seems like a really, really long time. 8,000 years is almost longer than Britain's society has been around. But in that 8,000 years, we have managed to lose pretty much all of our predators and also massive, massive amounts of woodland. We've managed to lose our rainforests. We've even managed to lose elephants. Yes, that is right. In England, there were elephants. We have lost everything. But in our ecosystem, we still see the shadows of what used to be there. If you look at a hawthorn, why would a hawthorn have any defense against a deer? It can just nibble past those thorns. That was designed for rhinos because in the Neolithic era, that is what we had. We had the same sort of ecosystem that we see in Africa. We had that, but we just managed to destroy that. But it's still there. It still can come back. Rewilding is the process of basically reinstating what we used to have. It doesn't look at what we have now. It looks at what we could have. It doesn't look at, oh, there's a moorland, it's been around for 80 years, let's keep it at that. It looks at, used to be a forest that was there 8,000 years ago, let's make it again. Let's reinstate what was there. Now, there's already plenty of charities in the UK doing this, many more in Europe. It's a massive thing in Europe. In the UK, it's mostly Trees for Life up in Scotland, where sorry if I say this wrong, they're trying to basically reconnect the ancient Canolodian forests with other pockets of ancient forests around them. And they're having great problems with the fact that there's way too many deer about. These blasted nibblers just eat everything. You can never, ever have a forest with them around. They just destroy everything. And it's the same problem with sheep. And if there's anyone Welsh here, I'm so sorry, but they are awful. Like, they are one of the But they are one of the main reasons for deforestation. They have done more damage than humans have in the UK. Their deforestation rates are so high because they just eat, and they don't stop eating until we stop them. Now, conservation in the UK right now is managed very differently from how I'd have it. It's managed very daintily, and they say, oh, would you please mind stopping this? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry. You've got to have a heavy hand. We've gotten to the point where we can't be nice anymore. We've got to the point where it's either move your sheep off our land, which is ours, we have that land, it's a national park, or we just don't. It has to happen. Now, my whole point on this is basically reinstate the predators. It's a process called a trophic cascade, which is a long word for basically meaning shoving big wolves in there and watching things happen. So one of the best places this could be reinstated is in the Cambrian Mountains, especially around oh God, I'm going to butcher this. Clynwyddelyn Mountains in Wales.
You've now offended a lot more Welsh
I
people.
so have, haven't I? I'm not too near the border, am I?
No, you're right.
Okay, good. And the easiest way to move sheep is to just have them off. You give farmers the choice. You can either move your sheep in a period of 3 weeks, or they're going to get eaten. You'll see them do it much more quickly. They're not going to be They're not going to be hesitant when they've got two options. You have to be hard about this. Now, how conservation is managed in the UK right now is to conserve certain species. They pinpoint certain things they like and go, well, that's a nice pretty flower, we'll have that. We won't conserve everything else. They kill and they chop and they basically decimate anything they don't believe to be British. Now, of course, WOMAD is the best example I can bring up. It doesn't matter if it's British or not, we just need a forest. We don't have the same sort of Aryan, weird fantasy about humans. We let anybody here, and it works. It will work brilliantly the same with trees. Just let it happen, let it see. We need to just leave it be and have it go. It just needs to happen. You just don't need to do anything. You need to just leave it, and it will do itself. Nature has built itself so that it does itself. If I go back to Cambrian Mountains, in a period of 30 years, they took many peat bog statements, and they looked through all the pollen records. And a period of 30 years where there was massive Welsh instability, the forest grew back. That was 30 years. We give it another 30, we could have those ancient rainforests again. Britain could be rainforest. We could be tropical almost. And those animals change the climate, and it's so, so, so easy. You literally just don't do anything. It's the best lazy philosophy you can have for conservation. Just don't. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Josh, the lazy and controversial conservationist. That was amazing. Thank you. You entertained us as well. Mark, yes, your summation of Josh's work there.
I'd love to see Josh having a debate with the president of the National Farmers Union. Can we have that next year, please? I'd love to see it, because you'd win, Josh. You would win. I think the great thing about what Josh said is that it is visionary, and it is looking to a better world. And all four speakers have been, this generation, every generation, you get given a world from previous generations. You don't choose it. You grow up in a world that other people have created. It's your job to make sure that you keep the best bits of what you've been given, but that you get as angry and as passionate as Josh about the things that need changing, about injustice and unsustainability and all the things that need fixing. Now, believe it or not, our generation did that too. We fixed a few things as we've come along the way, but there's some more things for you to fix, and you need exactly the passion that all four speakers have shown. But I think Josh showed more than anybody else on this platform today. That's because I'm right behind him.
Okay, brilliant. I think what we have heard from all our speakers is sometimes gentle encouragement. So Martha, saying, we need to look at things again, like hitchhiking. We've binned an idea, which actually you can do in a really great way using new technology, or, through to the rest of the guys who are like, we are rejecting this idea because it doesn't work, and this is what. So they're not taking our truths or the system that we've created and running with it. I think that's very, very inspiring. Is anybody similarly inspired and would like to ask any of our brilliant young panelists or their mentors a question? Yes, please. We've got a microphone for you. Lady in the pink there, I can see you. My eyesight's not amazing, but I can see if you're wearing bright clothes. Oh, great. Helen's on it anyway.
I hope I can be greedy and ask two.
Please do.
For Joe, I'm wondering if you might... Sorry, is that... What?
We can hear
you.
Can you hear? We can hear you perfectly.
I'm wondering if you might challenge your Liverpool club that you actually support to be as green as your local team, and actually do it as a publicity thing, maybe with Dale's support.
It'd be...
It's a great idea.
And for Amara, I'm wondering if you could also research and spread information about the impact on developing countries of the carbon effects of imports and of fair trade issues linked with the veganism, just to extend that. I don't know.
Wait, yeah.
Okay, so if we just, Joe, that's a great idea, isn't it? You could tackle your main club.
Well, I think, as I said, if we could get bigger clubs in, with more supporters, more fans and more followers, to get, just doing small things, like a few solar panels, changing a few things on, the food and what they eat and things like that, then almost carve a path and start leading the way for people to follow and sort of enjoy energy and things.
Good. Amara? What do you think about, so just unwrapping that a little bit. So you're talking about fair trade products and the food, so the foodstuffs that we import, our responsibility for that, and also, I suppose it's more of it's our footprint, isn't it? Our general food footprint that we all have. Do you see a way, are you familiar with fair trade ideas?
Yeah.
And do they interest you?
Yeah.
So fair trade is as a way of giving back or allowing market access to producers who wouldn't.
I completely agree that we need to increase fair trade in developing countries, and especially since a lot of people in certain countries are so poor they live off subsistence farmings and things like that. It is so important that we actually pay them what they need, fair trade, regardless of whether it's meat or not. From my perspective, just because.
Just a slightly different question on that note, but we hear now that actually a lot of fair trade production is struggling because the next generation in producer countries don't necessarily want to become farmers. They might want to develop an app or do something different or use technology, and they've also maybe seen their parents and grandparents really struggle. How have you thought about how we're going to persuade your generation in developing countries to produce food for us?
That's a good question. I haven't thought much about that. Like, I have learned about rural-urban migration and the young people going to the cities to find work, leaving aging populations to deal with the farming. I don't know how we can persuade them to do it. If it wasn't better fair trade, then obviously they would get paid more, so they would be able to continue to farm the products that we use. So that's a good point. Actually, going fair trade could help them come back.
But if you could think about it, because it's something that preoccupies me, certainly, and I know that actually what would be really interesting is to put you in contact with the Fair Trade Foundation. Have you met many food producers from across the world?
No.
Yeah, would you like to?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think that would be a really interesting exchange. And we live in an age where we can basically, we want to speak to people who produce fair trade tea in Malawi, then they have a Facebook page. So it really is the kind of time to make those connections. Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. Thanks very much, it's been very interesting. What struck me is when you're all talking is that so many of the individual challenges that your speakers are talking about, they're all interrelated. So how on earth do you get government to think about all of them as a subject and to shape policy that will benefit all those challenges, because they are all interrelated. And the second question was a more general question about, you talk about Europe. Have you got any ideas about the potential side effects of Brexit and how that's going to affect our energy and our policies on renewables? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dale, I'm going to come to you for both of those because, it's absolutely right. I mean, we live in a biosphere, in a huge ecosystem. Of course it's interrelated, but government is so siloed. How do you work through this massive issue? And then there's also the other issue that governments and legislators think in 4-year cycles at best, and we're all talking about the long term. We're talking about these guys' futures.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. These topics are all very much interrelated. I say thinking that as I heard young people here speaking. And our government, of course, are currently preoccupied with the impact of Brexit, which they didn't seem to be expecting. The way we look at this, the thing that kind of joins all of these topic areas up is the concept of a green economy. We think that the only sustainable economy in the 21st century will be one that's given over to renewable technologies, to changing the food that we eat, the way that we grow it, the way that we get around, covering all of these topic areas, including making room for nature. And the green economy is the one that's going to create the jobs of the future that are truly sustainable and at the same time enable social justice. So we probably need a minister for the green economy. Maybe that's it.
Okay, which one of you guys is going to be the first minister for the green economy? Oh, Mark, yes.
Well, Brexit would allow Josh to have a lot of power over what happens in the uplands. So it ought to be Josh, really, because all of us as taxpayers have been paying into the Common Agricultural Policy, which then gives that money to landowners to screw up our countryside. Now, if we're going to continue paying that money to farmers, post-Brexit, I voted to remain, but the only good thing I can see in Brexit is that we now have the decisions in our own hands as to how we fund agriculture. And if you want a type of agriculture like Josh's vision, we can have it, because we're now in charge. So I nominate Josh for that job.
I love the way you advocate for your mentoree. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Anyone else got anything to add on those questions? Amara, do you want to chip in? I can see you're thinking there.
I not about the questions actually, but I was thinking about something Josh said earlier about the sheep in Wales.
Oh, back to that. Okay.
Yeah, just, if you weren't vegetarian, there'd be less sheep. I'm just saying.
Good point.
Also, Redwyn Bw'n Gymru. I'm actually Welsh, so not all Welsh people like lamb.
I wasn't saying all Welsh people like lamb. I was more commenting on the husbandry that Welsh people seem to have of sheep, and they get very defensive, as you can see.
What did you think of Josh's Welsh pronunciation? Poor. It was shocking. It was poor. Yes,
absolutely shocking.
Okay, any more questions? Yes, I can see someone in a check shirt here. Helen, sorry, I can't. Yeah. Put your hand up again, lady in check shirt. Yeah, thank you.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Right in
She's
the middle
sitting down, cross-legged. Yep. Yes, thank you.
Hi, I have a question for Joe. With all, I agree we need to change our energy resources. However, how are we able to do that with the energy plants that we have today? For example, nuclear energy, it's hard to shut those power plants down. So how do you think you'd be able to then change that from those types of plants to just change it to renewable energy?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen overnight, and it's not, the government aren't going to suddenly say, right, we're going to get rid of our nuclear energy and switch over. But I think what we need to do is, as a country, switch at a time. So it starts with home switching, then grows, and bigger businesses start switching to renewable energy. And hopefully in the future, eventually people will, realise that we can sustain off renewable energy, and these nuclear power stations will slowly sort of become less powerful and less, contributing in our energy supply. And hopefully, if we just take it a step at a time, then renewable energy will sort of become a bigger supplier in our lives.
I love the way you're so calm, Joe. It makes me calm. But Dale, I mean, we do need to get a bit of a move on here, don't we? But does this the bother over Hinckley, as I like to term it, does that give you a bit of a gap? Does that give renewables a little bit of a boost?
It could do, couldn't it? And it might be one of the few great things about the vote for Brexit, in my opinion. If Theresa May reviews Hinckley this autumn and actually walks away from it, that would be a fantastic outcome. Because for the £30 billion that it's going to cost, we could virtually...
37, it went up.
It's gone up, yeah.
Goes up every minute, doesn't it?
We could power the whole country from renewable energy, and we wouldn't create the legacy of toxic waste, which will endure for about 10,000 years, which is an incredible thing to create. With any luck, Hinckley won't go ahead. That's what I hope.
Very good. Any more questions? Yes, there's a gentleman in a blue T-shirt by a pillar there. Thanks, Helen. Helen's running now. This is getting very urgent.
My daughter's pretending she's not with me here.
We can see you.
The app for hitchhikers sounded really great. wondered whether we could persuade WOMAD and perhaps other festival organisers to help to get one developed to start with to and from these festivals, and then perhaps spread it from there.
What an amazing idea. Are you up for that, Martha?
Well, my idea was maybe Ecotricity could support the app or whatever. So they have a lot of work to do. But yeah, so if Ecotricity could launch the app, and then we could try it on small places like getting to WOMAD or wherever, and then it could just gradually build into a bigger thing, and then everyone could do it.
Would you like to agitate?
That's a very good answer.
It's a great answer, but I thought we should maybe agitate for a commitment from Dale while we have him here.
I think at the moment Dale's got 17 million projects.
We'll just add another one on.
He's got as many projects as pounds needed to build one of the most ridiculous white elephants this world has ever seen. The only one thing I want to quickly add about Hinckley is it will become the most expensive structure that the human race has ever constructed anywhere on Earth, which is really quite impressive. I mean, we should be proud of that, if nothing else.
I know people that didn't like the Millennium Dome. Do you remember that? They're going to be absolutely furious about this.
That cost 20 bob, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Do we have any more? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a word for the uplands, I suppose, in as much that sheep, as much as Josh dislikes them, up in the Lake District, the Welsh Fells and Scotland do have, the sheep farming is largely organic in those areas, and supply sheep for the rest of the country are a valuable economic mainstay of the populations up there. So introducing wolves free scale, although a lovely idea, and I believe there is a plan to put links into the Lake District that predate deer. The actual, although it's a national park, it is generally, under private ownership, the fells or commons. So I suppose, appeal to Josh to maybe rethink or refine his, in principle, I think it's great for certain areas, but not whole scale across, the whole of the Welsh mountains, for instance. Okay?
Yeah, it'd be definitely better to, it'd be even better if we could just have the sheep coexist, but the problem with them is that they will just destroy anything they can. They're not even a native species, they're old but very, very invasive species. They've managed to somehow find their little niche in our culture. We could, in fact, do without them. The amount of money they make isn't the same amount of money that could be generated from other courses from it. For example, in Yellowstone, I believe they found that the rivers ran straighter when they reintroduced trophic cascade predators, so that they now have hydroelectric dams. We could create energy from energy is a lot easier to coexist with rewilding than invasive species such as sheep are. So I think there's probably other ways for them to, or they could even convert and work for the rewilding.
Okay, we may have to have a separate debate on sheep and uplands. Thank you for that. There is a links actually in South Devon, where I live. Yeah, that's rewilded itself.
If it's doing fine, it's doing fine. Leave it.
Seems to be okay. So maybe that's the way forward. Can we take one more question? Do we have time? One more question. This lady here at the front. I can just see her over the speaker. Thank you very much. And then we're going to introduce some more special guests.
I really like Joe's idea of rewarding people who go green. And I'd like to see a reward system in the planning system for all eco-housing and eco-projects, so that it frees it up and makes it so much easier to accomplish. Because every good idea seems to be kept at bay by people with self-interest, and we don't go forward fast enough. And all the schools ought to be automatically solar panels and wind and organic garden. That's where we should start, right at the beginning, where education is the most important thing for future generations. We've only got one world. Just the one world. There isn't anywhere else to go. So if we don't take care of it, we're going to lose it.
And I think that's right, because not only do we need to take steps in the right direction, but if we introduce it into young children, primary and secondary schools, they learn about it, and I'm sure that there's many people in schools who would have a passion for it if they knew a bit more about it. And that's why we need people on side, so you, the government, to sort of start at the beginning, as you say, and really introduce it into our world so it can grow as the generations grow with it.
Thank you. A very wise question, a very wise response. There we go. Did any of you guys actually, did you have solar panels and organic gardens at your schools? No? Oh, imagine if you had done. Wow, I can't imagine actually. Okay, we're just going to introduce you now to a collective of elders over here. Now these are 3 of the 4 champions from last year, 3 of our Young Green Britons. So I'd like to introduce you to Findlay Wild, our previous nature champion. Put your hand up, thank you. Megan Hansen, our previous energy champion. And Noella Osborne, who was our previous food champion. Now, their work absolutely goes on, and they are fantastic ambassadors. So basically, these guys are now joining with these guys, and what you see Ecotricity is building is this formidable pack, if I may borrow a kind of wolf expression, of ambassadors for real sustainability, for proper systemic sustainability. So what I'd quite like to do is just have each of you guys, maybe you can tell us a highlight from your year as a Young Green Briton, or you could maybe give a little kernel of advice to any of our new Young Green Britons here today. So Findlay, if you could start, that would be amazing.
Over the last 12 months, I've been campaigning with Ecotricity about a bird very close to my heart called the hen harrier. Last year, when I was at the WOMAD festival, I asked Dale Vince, the founder of Ecotricity, whether Ecotricity would be willing to sponsor hen harrier satellite tag. He agreed, Ecotricity agreed, and about 4 weeks ago, hen harrier was satellite tagged. So, any advice that I'd like to give to the panelists would be to grab every opportunity that comes your way. Even if it's a small one, it will help you in the future. Make sure that you stay in touch with your mentors, because they're brilliant people. And of course, stay in touch with Ecotricity, as they've really, really helped me in the last 12 months.
Thanks, Findlay. Thank you. Megan.
I think, advice-wise, you need to take every opportunity, even if it's just like spike someone interest in it, someone who hasn't thought about green energy before, and after you talking, they start thinking about it, and you have a conversation, and you change their mind. Because even if it's one person, then that one person will talk to someone else, and it will have a domino effect. And if we keep on talking to people and we keep on sharing these thoughts, then we can really make a difference.
Thank you, Megan. Noella?
I guess my advice would be let this experience be a gateway into, several opportunities if you chase them. People really, really don't underestimate your age and your passion, because people love the fact that you are young and you have passion. It gives them hope in the generations to come. So I would say, let people talk about what you've done today, the amazing things you've said. Grasp every opportunity that comes towards you because of the things you've said and the passion you have. And just stay vigilant, because at the end of it all, we're going to be the ones next to come into power. Our generation is hopefully going to be the people that are going to try and set the world back on track in terms of creating a much more sustainable way of living. So, yeah.
Thank you, Noella. Can we put these guys in charge of Brexit or something? They need to be, up there. I've been asked to sum up this debate, which is virtually impossible. Here are just a few little thoughts. In England, there were once elephants. Hitchhiking can be integrated, as can wolves. We need to be incentivized to throw off the stigma of green behaviors like renewables. We need mini breaks in sustainable hotels and more chance to view forest green rovers winning matches. 76% of people own smartphones, so let's use them for the planet's gain. We shouldn't be blasted nibblers, all of us. We should be extremely thoughtful in our diets because we need to save the planet. Let the wolves come, we can deal with it. And Ecotricity and Dale have about 17 million things on their to-do list, and we've just added a whole load more. Listen, it's been such a privilege to do this event. I want to say a huge thank you and lots of luck, and I hope to be hearing from you throughout the year to this year's crop of Young Green Britons. Joe Inman, Martha James, Amara Smith, and Josh Stroud. Let's have a big round of applause for them. Huge. You're so popular already. Wow. Huge thank you to our brilliant mentors, Nick Allan, who was here before, Dale Vince, Mark Avery, and Robert Llewellyn. Thank you so much for taking this on.
And can I just say thank you to you, Lucy, for coming and doing this. It's very much appreciated. And perhaps a big round of applause, please, for Lucy. I'm entirely humbled, and I'm going to do some proper research now because the pressure's on from these people snapping our heels. And thank you to you all for coming and supporting this event. As I say, I think it's one of the best, if not the best, panel event that I have been to in a long, long time. So thank you for coming.